What's up, everybody? Next video. All right, so everything seems to be going up this week, which is pretty good. The only exceptions are SFM and VXX, which actually work out pretty well for us. SFM, it's good because we sold the cover call here for January 22nd at 27.5. So I don't mind these getting called away, but it's better to have it closer to the strike price. That way you don't lose out on gains from the actual stock. Because the way a covered call works is even if SFM skyrockets to $100 per share, because I sold this contract, I have to sell my 100 shares for 27.5. So it doesn't matter what the actual price of the stock is. That's the most I'm going to get for selling them. But I have to sell them unless I cancel the contract, which I'm not going to do. I don't mind if these shares get called away because I really want to only have 100 shares. Right now I have 200. So it wouldn't be terrible. It would actually be ideal if these got called away, but I want them to be closer to my strike. That way I don't lose money on the growth of the stock. So if they got called away at 27.5, that would be completely fine. I may end up just selling 100 shares if this expires and it's not in the money. And yeah, just keep wheeling it. Then VXX I actually got really lucky on this week. So if we go over here to the chart, yeah. So this is Monday. This is where it opened. Yeah, here. So this was Monday morning. And I looked at it about here in this area. And I decided I would sell a covered call this week because it was going up. And I knew that it wouldn't like spike up to like $30 or anything. So I was comfortable selling a covered call for the week. But I wanted to wait to see how it would do and see if I could get a little bit more premium out of it, a little bit more money for selling the covered call contract. Well, when I checked it again, like a couple hours later, it was up in this area. So I went ahead and sold the cover call, and then it immediately just dropped, which is good because for the same reason as SFM, if I sold the covered call for 22.5, if it goes past this, all I'm getting is 22.5. So now I have a $4 cushion that I don't have to worry about actually getting called away. It's kind of a weird spot because I do want to get rid of these, and this would be a good opportunity to do it. Because if we go to my tracker that I use, my Excel sheet, my cost basis is 22.22, right? So if I sold them for 22.5, I would have made money. And that's ideally what we want because I want the cash in my account because, like I said, I'm trying to balance everything out and get a good strategy actually going. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But because it dropped, now next week I can turn around and sell another one, get my cost basis even lower, and just keep doing that. And hopefully, when I do get out of the position, my cost basis will be so low that I'll end up making money. And yeah, that's the goal. Now, just a quick overview for somebody who's like really unfamiliar with how covered calls actually work. So when you're dealing with options, you can either buy or sell. And you can either buy or sell calls or you can buy or sell puts. Now, when you're selling, you're going to receive what's called a premium, which is basically just like a deposit. Now, when you're doing a covered call, the reason it's covered is because you have 100 shares. Each contract for an option is 100 shares of a stock. Now, when you are selling a covered call, that means someone else is buying a call, which means if the stock were to get to this price, whatever strike you sell for, these are your strikes. If somebody buys a covered call for 22, that means if the stock were to go past 22, you have to sell it to them for 22. So even if it went all the way up to 30, you would only get $22 per share. Then they could immediately get those shares, which are actually worth 30, turn around and sell them and make $800 profit. Now that's a really big jump and a drastic example, but that's the gist of it. So when you're buying a covered call, or when you're buying a call, you're basically paying somebody for the right to buy a stock at a certain price. If it doesn't reach that price, they just lose that premium that they gave you. And if you're selling it, you get a premium. Because like I said, you're taking on the risk that if you sell it at 22 and it jumps to 30, that's $700 you missed out on. So you're taking that risk, so you receive the credit. So yeah, that's the basics of it. It worked out pretty well. One thing that people, and this is something that I ran into when I was trying to decide on a strike price for VXX this week. I think I was looking at 22 and 22.5. And I think there was like a 20-cent difference between the strikes. And so I was kind of getting greedy and I wanted to sell it at a lower strike. But one thing that people, especially when they're like first getting into options, overlook is, yes, the premiums are higher the closer you get to the actual value of the stock. But one thing you have to keep in mind is if you are selling it for 21.5, you're going to get a higher premium. But if you sell it for 22, there's a built-in extra 50 cents per share. So even though the strike was 20 cents different, or the premium was 20 cents different, I would have actually made more doing what I did with the 22.5 because the actual sale price would be higher. So I would have made 50 cents more per share, if that makes sense. Because you're going to be selling it at whatever the strike is. So you have to factor in that this is 50 cents higher than 21.5. So that's an extra $50 because each contract is 100 shares. So you have to add that into the premium. So don't get greedy based just on the premiums. You do have to factor in the actual sale price too. Something that I overlooked a lot when I first started. And yeah, it just keeps getting my cost basis down. And I'm just going to keep doing that. If I do get called away on VXX, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I would have made money, and then it would have freed up my cash flow, or my cash for my account. The only thing is because I bought these stocks at such a high 25 that I'm kind of treading water here. Like if the stock stays at 18 and then I have to sell a covered call at 21, that's going to be below my cost basis of 22.22. And that's how you can lose money with this. Ideally, you want to be doing this with stocks that you want to keep forever. So like Levi, I plan on owning forever. Ford, I was wheeling Ford for a long time, and then I ended up just selling all my shares. And I really wish I wouldn't have. I was chasing premiums and I was just starting out, and I got rid of all my Ford shares because the premiums sucked. But bigger isn't necessarily better. You just want to keep whittling down. Every time you sell a covered call and it doesn't get called away, you are lowering your cost basis for those shares because you're receiving money from whoever is buying the contract. And that's really all you want, is just to keep whittling away, and eventually you'll basically have 100 shares for free. And then, yeah, hopefully the stock will keep going up in value. Same thing with Levi. I really love Levi, so I plan on having them for a very long time. And I could have got my cost basis. I think I'm doing pretty well. Go back over here. So this is Levi. My cost basis is 21.44. It's actually lower than that. I talked about it in a past video. I got into Levi at like $11 or $12 or something, and then I switched brokers. So I sold all my shares and just moved the cash over, and then had to rebuy them on this account. So my cost basis is actually way lower than that, but it doesn't really matter. It's still below, my cost basis is still below what the actual price of Levi is, 23.025. So yeah, it's just another way to make money on stocks that you plan on holding forever anyway. Riot, it's kind of been all over the place. It jumped up a lot on Monday, I think, and then today it's up almost 5%. The reason being is the whole crypto market is kind of stabilizing again. It's been dropping a lot over the past couple weeks, and it's finally starting to stabilize again. Looking forward to that. Didn't do a covered call on that for that reason, for this week, because shit's just going crazy with crypto, and I'm kind of waiting for it to like level out, maybe for the prices to go back up, because I think Riot's going to be like really closely correlated with like Bitcoin. So I'll wait for that to jump back up before I start doing covered calls on it again. I think what I'm going to do is not even sell covered calls on this. Like once these get called away, I may buy back in for like 50 shares and just hold them. But I really want to grow my position in PCYO. I have decided on the leap that I'm going to do, and that'll be Saturday's video, and I'll go in pretty in depth into why I picked the stock that I did. And yeah, so that's the plans for the future. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short. There's really not a whole lot to go over, so good luck, everybody.